Hey guys, it is me, Tanya, founder of the TNG Designs Group Limited. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. Now, in this particular video, we're going to be talking about what is branding on social media. Yes, we're finally at this particular video, and it is something that is super important to be able to understand, especially if you're trying to stand out as a business and trying to stand out as a personal brand in general, but equally doing so in a way that is always going to be congruent to your standards and your beliefs. That is very important, especially in this day and age, but more so specifically doing it in a way without losing yourself in the process. Because I've come across a lot of people who often talk about, okay, I'm putting all these things out, but you know what, it doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm not getting the engagement that I'm looking for, I'm not connecting with the right kind of people. All that kind of stuff keeps happening. So I want to make sure I address a few key things in this particular video in order to be able to make sure that that doesn't happen anymore. Now, that can only happen if you address a few key things, which I'm going to be talking about particularly in this video, but it also is not going to be happening unless you start putting key things in place in order to be able to just get the motion going in the first place. And that being said, I've got some key things to make sure that you keep this action happening at the very end of this video. So make sure you stick around to the very end of that. And also make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel, because I share content just like this. And it's super important in order for me to make sure I get this message out to you. I want to make sure that you are getting all things and understanding about branding, because if you don't understand branding, well, then you don't understand how to make sure that you stop losing yourself in the process of getting yourself out there. Out there meaning in front of your audience. Out there meaning in front of all those people that you really, really need to be seen in front of. Because I talk about this often. Representation matters. You are a key figure in that source, in that line of representation, whether you know it or not. You're a key figure of representation that many, many people need to see more of. So, that being said, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Get to grips with what branding is about. Get to grips with how you can show up in the best possible kind of a way that is always congruent to your standards and your beliefs. So, folks, let's get stuck into this video. So, as I said, we're going to be talking about what is branding for social media. Now, when you know this, you're going to be able to start showing up in a way that is more comfortable for yourself. And you're going to start putting out content which is more congruent to your standards and beliefs. Because like I shared with you at the beginning of this video, sometimes when people are putting out content, you can tell that they are not comfortable with it. You can tell that it doesn't make sense to them, and it shows. It really, really does show. So the question is, how do we make sure that you are now standing out in a way that's congruent to your standards and beliefs, but equally in a way that allows your cause, your product, your service, all things that are coming from you, allows that to get the recognition that it deserves. Now, that can all really only happen if you address three key main things from the beginning, and everything else just builds up the momentum of that. Now, it goes without saying, you need to address your brand power of 3, okay? But these key things, once you've addressed your brand power of 3, these key things that I'm about to share with you will come the more clearer off the back of doing so. And I'm talking about your colors, I'm talking about your messaging, and I'm also talking about, more specifically, about the value that you're giving. Now, when you address your brand power of 3, that's your vision, your values, and your purpose, right? When you address those key main things, the things that I've just shared with you, your color, your message, as well as your value given information, all that comes from your brand power of 3. It just comes more easier, okay? So, when we address the color, here's what I'm talking about, your color. I'm talking about your branded color. For me, as you already know, it's the Sunshine Yellow color, right? And yes, I do have a few other colors in my color palette. However, Sunshine Yellow is my main primary color. Now, with that in mind, if you go to my page, especially my Instagram page, you're going to see a whole bunch of yellow. You're going to see a lot of information pertaining to the idea of whether it's a quote, whether it's making sure that a lot of what I do stands out, is always going to be in that yellow color. And then you're also going to be seeing that when it comes on to the next part, the message, my message, which is helping others to see that they are more than what they see, any information that I share is always based around that message. when you get what your message is based on what you've established for your from your brand power of 3, when you get what your message is, you're going to know and understand how to make sure that that is always shared throughout your content. So this is how you start showing up with your brand on social media. Now, this next part, the final part, right, which is understanding your value given information. That value that you give to your audience will again come from your brand power of 3. This is how important understanding what your brand power of 3 is. Because if you are just speaking out information, if you are throwing spaghetti at a wall, if you are just literally just putting stuff out there that has no correlation to what it is that you are actually doing, to your product, to your service, to the cause of what you're actually, what your actual brand is about, then that message that you're putting out to an audience is going to get confused. You are going to look confused. The way you're showing up is also going to look confused. So this is why I urge people to really start from your brand power of 3. Establish what that is so you know how to address your colors, so you know how to address your message, so you know how to address the value given information that you're sharing with your audience. And more specifically, all of that stuff is now becoming purposeful, meaning that the way that you're engaging with people, the way that you're connecting with people, the way that you're actually reaching out to people actually now has a purpose. All from you just addressing these key things. Now, it may sound a little daunting, but I promise you, it is not daunting once you just get into it. And it's just giving things the time that it needs to be able to establish what they are in the first place. Because I'm sure you agree, if you are that person who's been hitting and hoping, throwing the world at the social media wall, fingers crossed something's going to be sticking kind of attitude, right? Stop it. Stop wasting your time doing that and start spending the time and investing in the time that you need in order to be able to make sure that you establish what your brand power of 3 is to begin with, but also understand what your color is, also understand what your message is, and equally also understand how you can give value given information that is actually congruent to your standards and your beliefs, but more importantly connects with the audience that you're actually trying to reach out to. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. This is a nice short and sweet one, but at the same time really think about what they are. And if you are stuck, please go ahead and DM me or reach out to me in the comment section underneath this video. And also in the comment section underneath this video is a link in the description box. Now that first link, that's the one that I want you to click on. Click on that first link and get to grips with what all the other key principles are when it comes to building up your brand. More specifically, that allows you to stand out with a brand that is actually more congruent to your standards and your beliefs. So make sure you go and get to grips with what they are, get those key principles, use them to your advantage. More specifically, please take action with them and share with me how are you getting on with them. Because I love to know, and I want to make sure that you're actually on the right track to making sure that your brand gets the recognition it deserves, especially on social media. That being said, folks, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you on the other side.